Hello everybody, it's me, it's PokemonTripHD. Welcome back to some more Dragalia content, and in today's video we're going to be giving a unit review and analysis, and also a should you summon on the new banner, the Flames of Reflection Summon Showcase. Like I said, this is going to be a should you summon. I'm going to give my thoughts and my opinion on whether you should summon or not. I will also give an analysis on the units and give builds I think that the units should run. So if you want, an analysis on the units, then I'll do that in this video, because I don't really want to make a separate video for that, because I think, in explaining whether you should summon or not, it's good to give an analysis on these units. So, of course, we do have the couple cleanup things. We have the Flames of Reflection event starting tonight, PST, or tomorrow in other time zones. So be ready for that. Be sure to keep a builder ready so you can build that facility event. And we also have the Summon Showcase Flames of Reflection going alongside the events, which is also coming out, like I said. So the three units were already showcased in the What's Ahead for Part 5, so we already know what the units were going to be. We just didn't know what exactly the units were going to be, like what flame or lights or what they were going to be. So we have confirmation that they are all flame except the 4-star Reyna, which, I will talk about them. So let's just hop right into it, I guess. So first thing is first, should you summon? Well, if you're thinking about summoning, there's a few things you should keep in mind before you do summon. Actually, I do want to say, if you want to summon, if one of these adventures are your waifus, go ahead and summon. The game is supposed to be fun, so if you need your waifu, then go for it by all means. This is going to be mainly an objective look at these units and whether I think you should actually summon or not for them. So, yeah. So we have, of course, Ramona, Reyna, and the Dragon Arctos. Now, like I said, a couple things you have to keep in mind before you actually do summon is that we have a gala coming up at the end of this month. It actually might be right after this banner is done, so you may want to wait until the last day before you do summon on this banner, just so you can get the information on the next banner. Another thing to keep in mind is that summer is probably going to be coming up soon. If they decide to do a summer banner, it might be after the gala that's coming up. It might be before the gala. We might not even get summer though, so it is just something to keep in mind, that summer is probably coming, but we don't know for sure. We also have the first year anniversary coming up at the end of September, so in a couple months, 2 months time. So that's another thing you might want to save up for. And of course, we have all the seasonal reruns that should be coming up soon. So there's a couple things to keep in mind. Of course, we did have a director change, so we're not exactly sure if we're going to be getting as much Wormite as we did before. That is, again, another thing you want to keep in mind before you do summon. So those are just the prerequisites I want to say before I actually say my opinion on whether you should summon or not. So like I said, with all those in mind, should you summon on this banner? My answer is no, and I say no because these are not limited units and they're not anything game-breaking or game-changing. That's the gist of it, So that's my opinion. Now let's actually discuss the units and why I do not think they are anything game-changing. Now we did have a little tidbit that said Ramona was going to have a brand new feature that has never been seen before, blah, 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 that they said in Part 5. I was really looking forward to what this would be. Like, what could it be? Is it a new weapon type? Is it a brand new type of skill? Is it going to be a brand new type of ability? What's going to happen? And we do have confirmation on what it is finally. Again, the banner does last until the 22nd of July PST or the 23rd, depending on your time zone. So you have a lot of time to summon on this if you want to, or if you want to wait a little bit and think it through. It's better to use your Wormite on things like the Gala if you're unsure on where to use your Wormite. So yeah, I just want to get that out of the way again. Now, Ramona, let's discuss Ramona. I do want to discuss how these adventures relate in terms of their competition. So for Ramona, it would be Yue and it would be Vanessa. As for Reyna, it would be Aoi and Makoto. And I don't know, is it Aoi or is it Aoi? I honestly don't even know, but I'm just going to say Aoi, I guess. That makes more sense. Sounds like I'm saying AoE, but no, I'm saying Aoi, so I don't know. Okay. And also Arctos, how he compares with Konohana Sakuya and with Cerberus and Agnes. So yeah, I'm just going to say Cerberus because Cerberus is better than Agnes. So with Cerberus. All right, now let's talk about Ramona. So Ramona is actually a flame axe. She's not a light axe. I actually thought she would be a light axe, but she's a flame axe. Confirmed flame axe. It's good to get out of the workshop and stretch the old legs. She sounds really southerner, like a really southern accent. So she's an attacking unit. She has a strength of 518, which is actually insane. That is actually, I believe, second highest or third. I think it's second highest axe strength. So it's really high up there. I think Kuran is number 1. So it's up there. Or it might be tied with Kuran, somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure where those values are, but she's a probably one of the, not probably, but she is one of the highest strengths in terms of axes. Of course, the highest strength in the game, I believe, is Eyasu and Natalie with 521. So she is not too far behind. Of course, you have to keep in mind she's an axe, not a blade. So they have different weapon type playstyles. HP doesn't really matter because, of course, she's going to be a DPS unit. It says right here, attack units, they're all about DPS. Now, you have to keep in mind, they are flame adventurers, meaning that the end game content they're going to be used in is high Midgard Stormer. And not, you know, I would say Void Zephyr, but Void Zephyr you can clear with any unit, and it's really not that difficult. So the end game content currently would be High Midgard Stormer and Mercurial Gauntlet. So I'm going to be discussing with these two game modes in mind. Now, as for High Midgard Stormer, all these units have sleep res, meaning they're not going to be optimal for HMS. Of course, you can use them, but they're not going to be optimal. So right off the bat, I would not recommend pulling for these units if you're looking to clear with HMS with a certain unit. I would not recommend these units because, like I said, they're sleep res rather than stun res. As for Mercurial Gauntlet, we will discuss that, you know, as I talk about the unit. So let's actually discuss what Ramona's details are. Let's read this thing. I just feel like reading this. The middle child of the Blacksmith sisters, blessed with the ability to manipulate the temperature of flames. Gruff yet responsible, she leads her sisters in honoring their father's legacy with unyielding passion. Actually, a really good description. That's a really good detail. Sounds like a book. All right, let's talk about her skills. So the new skill that she has, her first skill, Forge Buster, deals flame damage to surrounding enemies. Continually tapping the screen during the attack will unleash additional blows with up to a maximum of 6. Changing direction is possible during these additional blows. So we've seen a type of skill like this before with Ezoliths. However, Ezoliths, you have to do that entire skill. You have to do the entire skill. You cannot, you know, stop it midway or whatever. Whereas this one, you don't need to do all your additional hits. You can only do the additional hits if you want to. So this is actually going to be much better than Ezolith's skill. However, it does face the challenge of Ezolith's skill, as you know, how Ezolith's skill also faces the challenge of, is it going to lower her DPS? We won't know until she's actually released and we can check out the DPS. I recommend checking out the Dragalia Lost DPS calcs once the adventure is actually released. Probably going to take like 24 hours after or something. But I do recommend checking that. They should be up on there after that, and you can actually confirm whether all the stuff I'm saying is true or not. So this first skill might lower her DPS, just like Ezolith's first skill lowers her DPS, and I think the best way to play Ezolith is abusing her skill too. So we're going to have to see how exactly this skill works. All in all, I think this skill is going to be much better though. Like I said, you don't need to do those additional attacks. You can change your direction. You could probably dodge hits and whatever if you're doing that, so that's really, really nice. You know, compared to Ezolith's skill 1, you can barely even move. Yes, you do move, but you barely even move, so you're probably still going to get hit by those purple attacks. So it's just something to keep in mind. And again, of course, you're probably going to use her in Mercurial Gauntlet rather than in HMS. So it is something to keep in mind that if this does increase her DPS, you're going to want to use all 6 hits pretty much all the time. So first skill overall, I'd say it's okay. Depends on how fast it charges, if it actually hires DPS, etc., etc. Her second skill, Smith Shield, increases the entire team's defense by 25% for 15 seconds. That is a really strong buff. 25% defense for 15 seconds. I think those are like the highest values that you can get in terms of buffing. 25% and then 15 seconds is like, it's really, really good. It's really good. But again, it's a defense buff. It's not a strength buff, but something to note. Of course, her ability is standard for axes. She does have a strength double buff, so she also increases her strength with that. Increases her defense and her strength. But of course, she can only do it when she uses her second skill. And it's not going to be as good as normal second skills like Mikoto's, where he just increases his buffing total and, you know, his attack rate or whatever, increases it total. It's not going to be as good as those skills, but it will be better once you have more flame units that offer defense buffs. If you're using something like Valentine's Orion along with Ramona, you know, they both offer team-wide defense buffs. That would be a really strong combo. Of course, Valentine's Orion is not that great, but in the future, once they release better units that offer team-wide defense buffs, combine them with Ramona, and that would actually be a really strong combo with strength double buff. Of course, the problem with strength double buff is if you're the only unit who can do it by yourself, it's usually not going to be too strong. You want at least 2 units that can activate your strength double buff. At that point, strength double buff becomes really, really useful. Again, if you're the only one that can do it, or if you can't even do it yourself like Luis, that is a big problem. That's why Luis really suffers. You know, she needs other people to activate her strength double buff. That's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to have. So that's my thoughts about strength double buff. Again, sleep res, it's not good for HMS. There might be content in the future which requires sleep res. At the moment, it's not too useful. Again, Void Zephyr is really easy, so you don't need sleep res. Her other ability, Primed Strength plus 10%. This is a new type of ability. We have not seen this. Increases the strength of the adventurer you are currently controlling by 10% for 10 seconds every time their initial skill displayed at the top of their skill list becomes available for use. After activating, this ability will not activate again for 15 seconds. So she actually buffs herself pretty often with these two abilities. Granted, like I said, the third one, her third ability is not going to activate unless you use her second skill, and her first ability is only going to be charged up once her first skill is charged up, and it doesn't activate again for 15 seconds. You know, depends how fast it's charged up, etc., etc. Overall, she can buff herself pretty nicely, and I like the buffs. We have to wait till she's released to see actually what the SP costs are and everything, but how do I think she's going to be in comparison to Yue and in comparison to Vanessa? Well, so first of all, you're going to want to run Ramona with a certain setup. You're going to want to run Valiant Crown and First Rate Hospitality, you know, for the strength double buffs. That's going to be really, really nice. If you're not running that, you're probably going to want to run like Resounding Rendition and Levin's Champion for the crit rates, because of course axes do have a natural crit rate of 4% compared to the usual 2%. And, you know, 4% is good, and then you bump it up even more with Levin's Champion and Resounding Edition, it's going to go up. But again, I do recommend Valiant Crown and First Rate Hospitality more. I think that would be more useful since she does have a defense up buff. So using those two, is she going to be better than Yue and better than Vanessa? Well, I do think she will be better than Yue, but I don't think she will be better than Vanessa. Vanessa has 2 attacking skills, and she drops the defense down, and she's very, very strong. That is the reason I don't think she will be better than Vanessa. Again, Vanessa is also stun res, so she can be used in HMS, whereas Ramona cannot. So I think Vanessa will have more use and be better than Ramona, but I do think Ramona has a lot of potential. You know, in the future, if you can use a 4 team member unit that has all defense buffs, that would make Ramona really, really strong with her strength double buff. So there's a lot more use in the future for Ramona, but at the moment, I think she'll be worse than Vanessa and better than Yue. So that's my opinion on Ramona. I do think Ramona is really nice. I'm really happy she's in the game. Am I going to pull for her, though? I don't think she's going to be worth pulling for by herself, unless, of course, her skill 1 is absolutely bonkers. So that's my opinion on Ramona. Now let's talk about the next adventure that we have info on, Reyna. Now, Reyna, thanks for your patronage. In exchange, I'll keep your weapons chock full. I was about to say check full of mana. She's a flame blade, meaning her competition is Mikoto and Aoi. Now, Mikoto is very, very good. Aoi is decent. You know, for a 3-star, she's pretty good. But Mikoto is one of the best DPS units in the game. So, how does she compare to that? Well, first of all, she's a defense unit, not an attack unit like Mikoto. Now, of course, we're living in a DPS meta right now, so you want to have DPS on your units, and unfortunately, Reyna does not have that. You know, her strength is 471. Now, compared to Mikoto and Aoi, Mikoto's 520 strength, where Aoi has 494 strength. So she's much lower than both of them. About 50 points lower strength than Mikoto, which is a lot. Now, usually, if it's like 10 points, whatever, it's only 10 points of strength, but this is 50 points of strength. That is a lot of strength that she is missing out on. So that is something to keep in mind. Now let's read her adventure details. The eldest of the 3 blacksmith sisters and the smithy's de facto owner. Responsible despite her laid-back nature, she imbues mana into the forge's finished weapons, smiling warmly all the while. Now, something I do want to note is that this flame sword is really, really cool. I really wish this was actually a weapon in the game. Imagine if this was the flame sword. That would be so cool. But alas, we're stuck with the normal swords. I really wish they added weapons like this. Maybe in the future they'll do this for, you know, some future high dragon content or something. I don't know. Maybe, you know, the other dragons that the siblings have, they're going to add those into the game, and then we get these weapons or something. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but I do really, really like those weapons. I think it's really awesome. All right, now let's actually discuss her kit. So first of all, she runs Roaring Furnace, which is a skill shift type of skill. Now, usually these skill shift skills are pretty good, you know, like Halloween Ellie, Annalie, and there's a bunch of other examples, and usually they're pretty good. So let's read it. Deals flame damage to enemies in a line and inflicts burn. Activates skill shift if the attack connects. Phase 2 adds an additional 10% increase to the user's critical rate for 15 seconds, while Phase 3 increases damage to burning enemies. I also want to talk about her second skill just so I can kind of relate the two. Immediately readies the Roaring Furnace skill for use and adds 50% to the modifier applied to critical damage for 20 seconds. So with these two skills, you can kind of shuffle them back and forth. Now, we did have a sort of ready skill with Floor. Floor can automatically ready her first skill. I believe it was Floor, right? I'm pretty sure it's Floor. She can automatically ready her first skill using her second skill, which is what this one does, Brazier Boost. So it's actually a very good skill. If you can time it right, you can actually activate your, your first skill twice, and then activate your second skill, Brazier Boost, and then your third skill again. You can shuffle through the entire thing in just one SP cost cycle. So that's really good. Hopefully this second skill doesn't cost too much SP. Hopefully it's like under 5,000. That would be optimal. That would be really nice. But again, we have to wait and see until she's actually released to see how this works. Again, something to keep in mind is that this also buffs. So you're going to have a buff on her for the majority of the battle. You might even have a really high uptime and have a buff the entire battle after, your first time doing it, because it does ready your first skill for use and give you a buff. And remember, these are actually pretty long buffs. We have a 15-second buff on the first skill and a 20-second buff on the second skill. Another thing to keep in mind is that she is a blade, so she offers a really nice co-ability. I also want to talk about this first skill a little more. So the first one, it inflicts burn. They all inflict burn, actually. Phase 2 adds an additional 10% increase to the user's critical rate, and Phase 3 increases damage to burning enemies. Now, I'm not sure if Phase 3 also has the crit rate on top, or if I don't think it does, because it says it adds an additional 10%, and then while the Phase 3 increases damage to burning enemies. So I think Phase 3 does not also increase your user's critical rate. That would be really, really good if it does. I don't think it does though, because that sounds way too good to be true. But if it does, her DPS will be absolutely insane, even though her strength is so low. If this increases her critical rate twice, that would be really good. Again, once she's actually released, we can find out for sure, but I don't think it will, which is really unfortunate. But again, you can still have a really good cycle and a really good uptime using her second skill in combination with that first skill. Again, inflicting burn isn't too useful, but it is useful in certain situations. So you can deal extra damage to burning enemies as well with Phase 3. I think Phase 3 is probably the weakest if it doesn't also increase your critical rate. But again, I think overall it's a very nice skill. I think her second skill would be really useful, again, if you can time everything right. Now, co-ability, of course, strength plus 10%, I already talked about that. Let's talk about her actual abilities. So her abilities kind of bounce off of Ramona's abilities. They're like the exact opposite. First up is prime defense plus 15%. It's just like what Ramona's first ability does. When her first skill is ready, it increases strength, but this one is with defense, increases defense instead. Now, this is really unfortunate. You don't really need any defense up. Again, sleep res, not really useful for HMS. And healing double buff, we already know what that does because it's been around for a long time. So overall, her abilities, none of them help her damage in any way, which is super unfortunate. Again, if these two skills were on an attacking unit with, good attacking abilities, I think she could be really, really good. But unfortunately, she's not. I do think if you run a lot of skill haste on her, I think a good combination would be Heralds of Hinamoto plus Jewels of the Sun. I think running skill haste on Reyna would be really, really nice. Pop off her skill 1 more often, pop off her skill 2 more often, and you can cycle through that, have an even better uptime. Could actually be a really strong combination. But again, we'll have to wait and see until it's actually she's actually released, and we can see what her DPS is looking like, what the SP costs are looking like. Overall, again, I don't think she's going to be better than Mikoto. I do think she has a high chance to be better than AoE, but I don't think she'll be better than Mikoto. Mikoto is just way too strong. He's way too offensive to be beaten by a defense unit like Reyna. Of course, if Reyna had good abilities, like good attacking, good offensive abilities, if she had Mikoto's abilities, I think she might be better than Mikoto. But unfortunately, she does not. So my hype for her kind of died down. I do really like her design. She has that like One-sama kind of vibe. But again, I don't think she's going to be better than Mikoto, and she's probably not going to be better to pull. I do think she'll be good in Mercurial Gauntlet, but again, Mikoto is probably going to have more DPS than her, so Mikoto would be the better choice than Reyna. Really unfortunate again. I don't think either of these 2 5-stars, Reyna or Ramona, will be the best in their weapon type for their elements, which is, again, like I said, really unfortunate. They're huge waifus, but it is what it is. I don't make the units, so that's just what it is, I guess. Now, we'll talk about the dragon, the 5-star Arctos Flame Dragon. We have a lot of 5-star Flame Dragons. We have like Prometheus, Cerberus, Agni, Konohana Sakya, and now we have Arctos. Now, this is a really weird name. It kind of brings me some bad like math vibes. I really did not like our cosine or whatever, but this is that was such a terrible joke. I'm so sorry. Arctos, Flame Dragon, let's discuss what he actually does. I don't really care about his details. His skill deals flame damage to enemies directly ahead and inflicts stun. His abilities, flame, strength, and critical damage too. If the user is attuned to flame, increases strength by 45%, adds 55% to the modifier applied to critical damage. Again, this is like Long Long. Long Long does this exact same thing, I believe. Now, again, we've already had this discussion with Long Long. You only really get your use out of her ability, Flame Strength, and crit damage up if your critical hit rate on your adventure is 22%. Now, what that means is your critical rate at any point needs to be 22% or higher. Of course, anything higher is good. That means you're going to crit 1 out of every 5 hits, probably a little bit more than that. So you should be getting your worth out of Arctos. I was about to say Long Long. Out of Arctos. Should I just call him Cosine? I don't know. You'll get your worth out of Cosine if your critical rate is 22% or higher. And you can achieve that, of course, using Worm Prince. If you're using an axe, that's base 4%. Every other weapon type is 2%. An adventurer that can do this off the top of my head is Mikoto. He can easily do this. That is, you know, a really good user with Arctos. I believe Ramona could do that. Or not Ramona, sorry. Reyna could do that. Ramona could probably do that as well, but Reyna could do that. You know, there's a lot of adventures that you can get your worth of out of Arctos. But once the Arctos actually released, I recommend checking up the DPS calc, seeing which units actually can take full advantage of the Arctos. Again, overall, I think Cerberus would be better than Arctos. Even Konohanasakia is better for certain units than Arctos. But again, there is some that would probably take advantage of Arctos, like Mikoto. So that is something to keep in mind. Overall, I don't think you should pull for this, especially if you have a maximum binded Cerberus already or something. You really should not pull for Arctos. But if you do not have any 5-star Flame Dragon, Arctos is a great one. I do think, like I said, Cerberus is probably better for general use, and as well as Konohanasakia for general use than Arctos is. But again, he's a good option. I would say, I'd say he's third best. Probably tied with Agni. I do think Cerberus is better than Agni because Cerberus offers a defense down, whereas Agni does not. But Agni does give the exact same buff as Cerberus, so there's something to keep in mind. That, you know, I don't know. That we're not having that discussion right now. That's for another video. We also have a 4-star unit, which I'm not going to throw a picture of. I just want to say her name is Renee. You know, she's over here on the. Let me bring this back up again. She's at the very top of the notices once it loads. She's the black-haired girl. And she's actually a 4-star water dagger. She's probably going to be the best 4-star water dagger that we have. I'm saying that right now. She's right there in the middle. Probably going to be the best 4-star water dagger that we have because she has a bogging skill. Bog is a very good affliction, and she actually has a skill that does bog, and she has 2 attacking skills. Again, we have to see what her abilities are, etc., etc. But I do think she will probably be the best water dagger, especially if she is not stun res like Cleo. Then, you know, if she's actually burn res, you can use her in Hybrid Hilda. So I'm really looking forward to her once she's actually released. And I don't know, my thing is loading really bad right now. But that is my analysis on these units. Overall, I do not think you should pull. What do you guys think? Are you going to pull? Do you think you should pull? Give me your opinion on the units down below in the comments. Was this a good analysis? Did you like this format? You know, let me know everything in the comments down below. I read every single comment. I appreciate every single comment. I'll also probably be streaming tomorrow. A good chance I'll be streaming tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the day after, because, you know, tomorrow is actually the event. So I'll probably stream the day after, tomorrow on Friday. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. And let me know your thoughts. Are you going to summon or are you not going to summon? Once the D-Pass is released, I'll probably add updated information in the comment section on these units. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time. I hope this is a great day. And until next time, have a nice trip.